We'll call to order tonight's special called meeting of the Auburn City Council meeting. Roll call, Lindsay.
Dawson.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Griswold.
Here.
Hovey.
Here.
Parsons.
Here.
Smith.
Present.
Taylor.
Here.
Witten.
Here.
And
Here.
Mayor, item 3 is the 2021 redistricting plan that reapportions city council districts following a federal decennial census as required by Alabama State Statute 1143A-33. This item received a motion and a second at the December 21st meeting and was then postponed to January 4th. This item was also postponed at both the January 4th and January 18th meetings. Public hearings were held at the December 21st meeting, of which that public hearing was continued through January 4th and was held again on January 18th, and the public hearing was closed at that time.
Any discussion from the council?
I believe that I'd like to reopen the public hearing. We have a lot of constituents here in town or here tonight that I think would like to speak. Is that something that the council would entertain?
Council, would you be interested in this? As Ms. Crouch just stated, this particular topic has had 3 different opportunities for public hearings. Certainly having a 4th is would be unusual, but we've never done that before.
It's 2 public hearings, and then during the December 7th, before this was on the agenda, you had citizens' communications about it. You did again on January 4th when you did not have a public hearing.
So there's
both
been 2 public
before
hearings and
after.
then, yes,
2
and on
public
January
hearings
4th.
and then other citizen comment periods, yes.
So what would the council's pleasure be?
Just to be honest with you, I think that a public hearing would be appropriate tonight because of some accusations that was made, and I think that would give maybe the NAACP or whoever the opportunity to bring those to the table if that's what they prefer. So I think a public hearing would be appropriate tonight.
I support a public hearing just because we had new information at our last meeting. That'd give the opportunity for the public to digest that and bring their thoughts to what we presented. So I would certainly think it'd be advantageous to us to hear from the public again on this issue.
Okay. I've heard from 3 council members. Anybody else having a strong opinion on this? If we do move forward with the public hearing, I strongly suggest that we have a 5-minute time limit that allows as many people to talk as possible. But I think it's important to recognize that this has been a topic that citizens have talked to the council, at least 3 meetings we know so far. So I think 5 minutes, my belief is 5 minutes is plenty of time for an individual to address the council tonight. So if we move forward with a public hearing, I'd like to ask the council to support a 5-minute time limit. Is everybody good with that?
I don't support a time limit, but I have to go with the majority.
Okay. The rest of the council okay with that, 5-minute time limit? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we will open the public hearing. There'll be a 5-minute time limit for you to address the council. As you move forward, please give us your name and address for the record. And please remember that this is your time to advocate your position regarding this topic to the city council. And I know there's a lot of emotion tied up into this tonight. I ask that everybody be respectful of everyone that comes forward to talk tonight. This is a public meeting. I just ask everybody to have the most professional decorum as possible. Who would be first?
Good evening, council members. My name is Bernard Simonton. I'm president of the Alabama State Conference of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And I'm here from Harvest, Alabama. Address is 15376 Pepper Creek Road, Harvest, Alabama. And that's in North Alabama, Huntsville area. I'm here tonight to support the Lee County branch of the NAACP and the citizens of Auburn City in their effort to achieve an equitable map that complies with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. In 1965, citizens of all races and colors and all ages marched from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama to demand the right to vote because citizens were being refused the right to vote because they could not pass what was then a literacy test, telling how many bubbles in a bar of soap, or reciting the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America. Those citizens were denied their right to vote. And we fast forward some 57 years later, and we're still seeking the right to vote. And I know many of you all that are sitting in front of me and probably perhaps behind me are saying, blacks have the right to vote just like everyone else. But when it comes to your vote mean as much as my vote, I can tell you that citizens, black citizens in particular across the United States of America, votes are not counted equal, because of situations like we have here in Auburn, where they are packed into either one district or they are spread out so that they don't have any voting strength where they can elect a person of their choice to run to seek an office. And so that's what we are here tonight to discuss. And I'm quite sure most of you all have heard, and especially you all attorneys have probably read, on yesterday, the federal court in the state of Alabama, in the Northern District, made a ruling on a court case that the Alabama State Conference was a party to. And I'm not going to read all 200 some pages of that, what the judges said, but it was a 3-judge panel that rendered a decision. And these were judges appointed by Democratic as well as Republican presidents. And so basically, I want to read a short portion of it. And it says, the consideration of race in drawing district lines may be permissible and necessary in many areas of Alabama to ensure compliance with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. But Alabama's consideration of race in the drawing of HB 1 was not narrowly tailored to comply with VRA, Voting Rights Act. Rather, HB 1 reflects the legislators' desire to use race to maintain power by packing 1/3 of black voters into one district, in one congressional district, District 7, which is currently held by Congresswoman Terry Sewell. Based on these findings of the fact, conclusion of law explained below, including our assessment of credibility of expert witness, we conclude that the Milligan plaintiffs are substantially likely to establish that the plan violates Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and more particularly, we conclude that the Milligan plaintiffs are substantially likely to establish each part of controlling Supreme Court tests, that black Alabamans are sufficiently numerous to constitute a voting age majority in a 2nd congressional district. And it lists several other things that I won't go in detail about tonight. But based on these facts and what has happened in the state's redistricting plan, I join with the citizens of Auburn and the NAACP and asking its duly elected officials to set aside the map that the Auburn City Council has proposed and then adopt the map that is presented to you by the NAACP of Auburn.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Who will be next?
Hello, I'm Billy Allen. I reside at 930 Redan Trace, Stone Mountain, Georgia. However, I'm a graduate of Opelika High School and a graduate of Auburn University. And I must say that I've been here for the last few months, and I've seen several people come up here to talk to you guys and give their point of view, and it's been quite interesting. And from those conversations, I'm going to give you an overview of 7 things that's been said by different individuals that I think is very important and that we need to address as soon as possible. The 7 things are, first, here in the city of Auburn, we have 76,000 residents from the last census. We only have 4 precincts. 4 precincts for 76,000 people. It needs to be more accessibility for the citizens here to vote. They need to be educated. They need to know where their locations are to vote. And that needs to be done soon. That's a problem. Number 2, the system and the process that we use here in Auburn for redistricting is broken. People have said that to you guys. It's broken. There should be a more extensive involvement of the citizens before the map is drawn. No stakeholders should be eliminated. And we should also maybe piggyback or look at other cities in the state of Alabama, like Mobile, like Huntsville, how they conduct their redistricting. It's no problem with learning from others, because we don't need to go through this again in 10 years. Number 3, it's been said that the NAACP map is illegal. That's not true. We stand behind our map, and it is legal. Number 4, we've had consultants to look at our map, and those consultants have verified that our map is legal when it comes to the 3 prongs of the Gingers and any other preconditions. It is legal. Number 5, it's also been presented to this body that your council has a certain record, and also it's been presented his success in court, his percentage of successful cases. Number 6, we've had citizens from all over. It's been stated. Look at the tapes. We have citizens from all over Auburn that have come here. Lawyers, everyday citizens. And they've come here and they have supported the NAACP map. Lastly, number 7, this is an opportunity for the city of Auburn to shine. It's an opportunity for us to really be the loveliest village on the plain. All we have to do is just work together, partner, and approve a map that represents every citizen of Auburn, not just Ward 1, not just Ward 2, Ward 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, or 8, but every ward in Auburn and every citizen. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Lee. I live at 1652 St. Andrews Lane. I'm in Jay's Ward 7. I'm also a proud 1970 graduate of Auburn University. During the last week, I have realized that I've been going about trying to persuade you, the city council members, to vote for the alternative map because it takes the hard work that the city manager and her staff have done and modifies it slightly to have 2 majority-minority wards. And it's consistent with the 37% minority population. I've tried to appeal to your sense of fairness and equity and justice. I've suggested that the alternative map is the right thing to do. I've said a vote for the alternative map sends a message to the citizens of Auburn that Auburn is progressive, forward-looking, and fair. But I've failed. I've talked with a number of you individually, and I don't think I've been persuasive. So here's what we've got. We've got an elephant in the room. You probably see him too. Right here in this council meeting room. And we're Auburn. We don't allow animals in the meeting room. Especially not an elephant. Now, in order to get rid of the elephant in the room, I have a hypothesis and I have a solution to this problem. My first thing is we have Tommy Dawson. His ward has 65% population on the white population on the alternative map, and I'm sorry, on the city map, and then 70% on the alternative map. So you would think that Tommy would vote for the alternative map, but I don't know. We have Jay in Ward 7 with a 70% white population on the city map and 79 on the alternative map. Surely Jay would vote for the alternative map. And Bob at Ward 6, well, he may vote for the city map because he's really interested in keeping the constituents that he currently has, and I can understand that. And Brett in Ward 4, well, the city map has his ward with 65% white, and the alternative map has 59. Well, he may vote for the city map because it gives him a better chance of being elected. And in Beth's case, her city map ward has 68% white, and the alternative map has 69. And these 2 maps are almost identical. But it's kind of a toss-up in Beth's case. So, my proposed solution. You may hear tonight a motion to accept the alternative map, and I hope you'll consider it. And you may hear an amendment to the alternative map. This amendment would move, if it's presented, 2 census blocks from Ward 6 into Ward 5. If that motion happens, I hope you'll seriously consider it, because what it does puts Bob in Ward 5. And you may possibly hear that the person, Stephen, who's holding Ward 5, may be interested in saying he's not running. And that gives Bob a clear shot at winning Ward 5. So, if you vote for the alternative map tonight, you solve 2 problems. Number 1, Bob has the constituency that he really is desired. And number 2, you solve the problem because, goodness, the NAACP alternative map is voted on, and the lawsuit's kind of dead in the water. You have a choice. Vote for the alternative map. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'll be next? Hold on, there's 2 people.
Good evening. My name is Tabitha Eisner. I reside at 4349 White Acres Road, Montgomery, Alabama 36106. I want to provide a little context. On March 30th of 2011, the Permanent Joint Legislative Committee on Reapportionment had its first meeting of the 2011 redistricting process. In that meeting, Dorman Walker was introduced as the attorney for the committee. selected by the chairs, who are include Jim McClendon, the Republican who chaired it again in 2021. The legislative maps approved by the Alabama legislature and governor in 2011 were later found to be in violation of the Voting Rights Act because they excessively packed minority voters into a limited number of districts, thus reducing the power of the minority vote. The Alabama state legislature had to redraw both the state Senate map and the state House map in 2017 after a years-long court battle with the Legislative Black Caucus that took them to the Supreme Court. In August 2021, the Permanent Committee on Reapportionment met as a result of the 2020 census and held its first meeting of the 2021 redistricting process. In that meeting, again, Dorman Walker was introduced as the attorney for the committee, selected by the chairs because, as they explained to the committee, he was selected because he did this same work for the committee in prior years and was an experienced lawyer in redistricting. No mention was made of the fact that Mr. Walker's previous work had been ruled unconstitutional by the courts. In September and October of 2021, public hearings were held that Attorney Walker chaired. At those meetings, he welcomed public input, limited to 3 minutes, but that input was never actually considered by the committee. The only map considered by the committee was the map proposed by the committee chair and backed by Mr. Walker. In early November of 2021, the Alabama legislature voted on a congressional map, a state House map, a state Senate map, and a state school board map. Throughout the deliberations, Attorney Walker was present, advising both the House and the Senate. He led the members of the legislature to believe that A, it was too late to make any changes to any of the maps, as it would take too long to properly analyze the changes. B, he told them that if any changes were made to the map, they would be perceived as racially motivated changes, and he insisted that the law required race-blind maps, despite what the courts have said again and again about the need to consider race. These talking points were repeated each time a member of the minority caucus proposed a change to the maps. Nonetheless, the committee co-chair, Chris Pringle, a white Republican, proposed an amendment to the State House map, and the amendment was approved that very day, without there having been any problem about analyzing the changes, nor about the change being racially motivated. It appeared to an outside observer that changes proposed by white members of the legislature were acceptable, but changes proposed by non-white members of the legislature were clearly racially biased and therefore unacceptable. In the end, the maps were passed through the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. And throughout the process, the attorney reassured all involved that the maps passed by the legislature were exemplary and would hold up if challenged in court. But yesterday, a panel of 3 federal court judges found the Alabama congressional map dilutes the voting power of minority residents of Alabama, and they blocked its implementation. This is the same congressional map which was approved by the state legislature and endorsed as exemplary. Multiple federal lawsuits had been filed, including by the Alabama State Conference of the NAACP. The judges found that their challenges were valid. The similarities between what happened with the state legislature and what is happening here are notable. But what's different here is what's important. What's different here is that there's still time to avoid litigation, still time to avoid the perception or reality. Either way, does it matter, the perception or the reality, that minority power is being diluted in Auburn? Let's avoid going to court. Let's avoid litigation. Let's honor the minorities in this community by voting for a map which is, in fact, legal.
Thank you. Who will be next?
Hello, my name is Dr. Kelly Thompson. I reside at 806 Floral Street in Opelika. Nonetheless, I'm a proud alumni, and many of you know me. I sit right in the center of the town, holding signs that look very much like these ones here. We have several present today. The sign kind of points out the elephant in the room that was brought up just a few minutes ago. For more than 600 days, myself and my friends have been sitting in the center of this town, holding that visual reminder. A simple replica of a vintage sign to remind us how long we've been asking to do that very simple statement, to stop racism now. Every now and then we get opportunities to make brave votes, to do brave things by the citizens that sent us in those chairs right there. Some of us get to do brave things by showing up on a corner and keeping a protest going. That's something I'm proud to do. And I'm proud to keep it going in this city, in this southern red state, as a visual reminder of the hard work that we must continue. And that if I found myself in your position, sitting with the difficult decision you have to make, I get it. But if I had to lean on someone and trust the history of an organization that has done the hard work of centering the voices of minorities in this country, I would lean towards trusting the NAACP. Because in the summer of 2020, when I started this protest, it was because many of us, including many of you, including many of us in this room, we told ourselves we would be changed by that summer. We all know what happened. We all know what brought many of us to street corners all across this country. We know the anger. We know the pain. We know all the emotion that brought us out there. But we told ourselves we would be changed, that we would be different. And now is our time. Now is our time to consider if we'll be changed by that moment or not. If we'll consider the long, long history of voter suppression, particularly in the Deep South, and the trusted leadership of the NAACP in fighting those battles. That's what I would be considering if I were you. And so I hope that as you continue to see many of us continue to sit out with signs like that at this moment and every moment that you will have in the future to be changed, just please be changed. I support the NAACP's map because I support their leadership. I support the work that they've been doing. And I told myself and my friends that I would be changed. Thank you.
Who'll be next?
Well, I'll have to put the mask back on after I finish. But Mayor Anders, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Herbert Walters Jr., 412 Opelika Road, Apartment 111. I would urge you all, first of all, to not make the same mistake that the Alabama legislature made on the congressional map, which Mr. Simonton pointed out in his comments was ruled unconstitutional or illegal, if you will. But I would not just urge you to avoid that mistake in making sure you comply with the Voting Rights Act, even with the changes that were rejected by the U.S. Senate this past week. But remember the history of how we even got here today to debate this matter. Preferably the Selma to Montgomery March of March 7th and subsequent dates in 1965, right here in Alabama, which led to the Voting Rights Act in the first place. This is a very important part of the history of Alabama that you should not forget in making this decision here tonight. And I say this as a person who has a PhD in public policy from Auburn, but I also have a history degree from the University of Georgia. Just like the consultant that you all hired to do this project, I'm a UGA graduate. And yes, I should tell you that my baby sister sent me in the mail a national championship college football shirt in the mail about an hour ago. During which I also received a phone call from a University of Georgia student. We were talking about the Natty. We were talking about the men's basketball game here last Wednesday. And in that conversation, she asked me to contribute to the fund, just like other colleges and universities. You have to keep raising money, and I decided to contribute. And at the end of the conversation, I told her that we at UGA have come a long ways. Athens-Clarke County has come a long ways, and we have a long ways to go. You could say that about Auburn, Alabama, and Auburn University also. And at the University of Georgia, we have a simple motto: to teach, to serve, and to inquire into the nature of things. And I'm hoping that in your service to the city of Auburn and on this matter and any other matter, that you've inquired enough into this redistricting plan. With that, we can get better inquiries into things like the airport, into things like a cultural center, or a library branch, or where to move the recycling center, or the madness of Cox Road. And matters just like how we handled last weekend with a very important basketball game took place. And even matters concerning something like permitless carry and the impact that it would have on public safety and public health, not just from a citizen standpoint, but from the standpoint of how law enforcement would treat public safety and public health, concerning what the public safety director's job is, what the police chief's job is, and even the concerns that are raised by Mr. Dawson in reference to law enforcement and public safety, and concerns that each of you have concerning your own matters. We can get better inquiries into that. I would certainly hope that you would, if you have to accept the amendment, if you have to accept the new plan, do that. But let's carry on what happened in March of 1965. Let's give the citizens of the city of Auburn something to talk about other than a #1 ranking in men's basketball. Thank you very much.
Who'll be next?
Good evening. I'm Kim White. I live at 228 Conray Drive in Ward 5, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of East Alabama. So the League of Women Voters supports citizen engagement and transparency in government. Our position is that redistricting at all levels of government must be accomplished in an open, unbiased manner with citizen participation at all levels and steps of the process. It appears that citizen access and participation was not allowed until the maps were already created for Auburn. I'm uncertain whether any citizen comments were used to actually make any revisions to the map, and I'm surprised that not having a public hearing tonight was even a consideration. I'm glad you were willing to hear from your constituents on this important matter. As has been mentioned by others, yesterday a federal court blocked Alabama's congressional maps in a Section 2 claim, and I am not here to say whether the city's proposed map would withstand a Section 2 challenge. But I'd like to say that complying with the Voting Rights Act is a floor and not a ceiling. We can aim higher. I believe in Auburn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who will be next?
sorry, these are kind of hard to get off. Warren Tidwell, 1654 Piedmont Drive. I received a message about the last meeting from a dear friend, a black woman who lives here in Auburn with her family. She wrote me, "I cried. The range of emotion was intense. Fear, guilt, oppression, anger, and sadness. I recently mentioned to a friend that there are so many, many black people, brown people, disenfranchised people in this community who want to do more, but we are knee-deep in survival mode. Even those who have are busy trying to continue to have. The day-to-day racism and classism is debilitating. I hate it here." Breaks my heart somebody would write that about Auburn, but it's hurt me even more. The people I know who are involved in this process and are looking at this as just drawing a map and voting on it. When we live in a region with such a history that we continue to say weighs upon us, but we don't even acknowledge that. We've centered the voices of the white folks involved in this, while minority folks have stood here and all but begged you to see this through their eyes. I'm pretty sure no minorities were involved in drawing the maps for the city. I know none were hired to advise the city, so they could present a map to a body that has one minority whose people have been oppressed in this country. I'm admitting my culpability and complicity as a white person in this society that has maintained this environment where we think it's okay if only white folks are making all the important decisions related to a minority population in this city. I know there are a lot of good folks involved, but every single one are good white people just like me with the best of intentions shaped by our experiences and belief in the inherent goodness of a system that has been good for us, but has failed minority folks time and time again here and throughout the United States of America, who could have said, "We hear you and we see you and we want to figure this out together," and did not, who then hired a consultant with a history of having maps they've helped draw be racially gerrymandered, as I told y'all, and who, when made aware of this, did nothing except allow that man and his team to stand at this podium and tear down a black organization's contribution to this process. No racial slurs were thrown around. No one was physically attacked. But still, that is textbook modern-day white supremacy. The echoes of 1962 were heard loudly here in 2022. I've watched as people involved have failed to listen to the Auburn constituency, shirked the responsibility of speaking out, and laid it at the feet of the inaction of others, their position with the city, or the inevitability of the already determined end result. It doesn't have to be this way. We can send a message to the world, who I can promise you is watching. If you vote for a map when someone declared it to be exemplary work, but himself had maps blocked just yesterday for not being compliant with the Voting Rights Act, you are putting your stamp of approval on this process. If you vote for the city map still here untouched through this process, you are telling my friend who hates it here she is absolutely right. If you vote for the city map over the NAACP option or a compromise of the two that still could be developed, you are telling folks loudly and clearly that white supremacy is indeed still alive here in Auburn, Alabama. But like I tell my son, when you learn better, you do better. Come on, y'all, do better.
Please. Who will be next? Okay, there's two ladies coming up. Yeah. Y'all decide who wants to go first, please. Yeah.
I'm Elizabeth Hill. I live at 274 Bragg Avenue. It's in Ward 2. I stood up before this council several times on redistricting, ADDUs, I don't know, some other stuff. But I'm not sure that I've told you what my side job is. My side job is I'm a yoga teacher. I love the strength, the flexibility, the community aspects of the yoga. But the best thing that it's given me is the ability to hold tension and remind myself I can breathe through it. Right now, you are sitting in the middle of tension. Remind yourself to breathe through it. I honestly don't want to be in the middle of this tension. I'm an upper class, white, very privileged. I don't have to be here tonight. I could be sitting on my couch. I could actually be at my son's basketball game. I hope they won. I really don't even have to be here. But I'm here sitting in the tension because this matters. This matters deeply. So here's a few points that I would like for you as the council. If I'm a citizen, if I'm a constituent, asking the council to consider a few things, here's some questions I would be asking. I have full faith that Megan wants to have a great map for the city. I do. So many of you have said, we have faith in her, we want her to. We believe that too, because we took her map and we said, we love lots of parts of it, we're gonna just add some. But what her intention was and what the impact of that map are different, and you're responsible for the impact. So what is the impact of the city map? The impact of the city map is probably a dilution of minority voting power that will land you in a lawsuit that will spend my tax dollars. Please don't spend my tax dollars on that. That's not a good use of my tax dollars. There's lots of other things to spend my tax dollars on. There's questions about the legality of the map. The NAACP took time to hire Robert Avery from GJA Consultant out of Gadsden, Alabama. He has 35 years of experience. He said our map meets all the legal criteria. Numbers, lines, beautiful. He even went as far as to say most city councils would jump at the opportunity to have a map like this that has 2 coalition districts that give minorities voting power. Then there's the case that has been brought up from yesterday. That has been spoken to several times, but I would be asking the question of the person standing up and saying the city map is exemplary, having had said that to another map that has now been overturned, I would just be asking questions. I also would be asking the question, if I pass the NAACP map, what might happen? I'm not sure. Do we think there would be a lawsuit from someone else? Maybe. I haven't heard that. Maybe you have more information, but that's a question I would be asking. You have been given so much information. Mayor Andrews is correct. We've sat through redistricting meetings. You've heard from your constituents. Sit in the tension of this. Breathe through it and make a decision that is the best for Auburn.
Thank you. Harriet?
My name is Harriet Huggins. I live at 631 South Dean Road in Auburn. I believe we've all become aware over the last several meetings of this body that the minority population in Auburn has grown to some 37%. That being said, providing for the possibility of a second majority minority ward sends a very positive message to the minority population of Auburn. It says, you are not only valued in this community, but we feel you are necessary to reflect the differing needs and services necessary to ensure a great community. I urge the council to approve a redistricting map that supports that possibility. Thank you.
Who'll be next?
Good afternoon. LaTisha Khalif, 2262 Heritage Ridge Lane, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. So I wasn't going to say anything, but at the start of the meeting, there were a bunch of reminders about how many times we have talked about redistricting. We even went on to quantify them, and everybody helped count, and even started talking about the citizen communications when we brought it up. So I would argue that if something is important, you are supposed to discuss it and you are supposed to discuss it as much as you need to because it is important. So in my opinion, this whole meeting was opened up in a manner to suggest that, number one, you're sick of hearing from us and that you think we have said enough, or number two, you just don't want to hear anything else about redistricting or this map, and that number three, this is just a redundant conversation to you. So I looked up the definition of redundancy, and it says something that is repeated unnecessarily or something that is not useful or relevant because there's already another or more advanced discussion or version. Well, I would argue that what is being said today is not redundant. We are not repeating unnecessary information. We are presenting information that is useful, imperative, and relative to a decision that each of you will make for the next 10 years for the city of Auburn. So during the last meeting, as well as after the last city council meeting, the NAACP has been discredited. The map that we proposed has been discredited, and it was wrong, and it was unnecessary for that to happen. There were several articles and assertions that suggested that the map that we presented was illegal. Then I heard somewhere along the way that we started playing semantics and that it was never said that our map was legal. Maybe it was inferred that it was not illegal. I honestly don't know the difference because what the community heard was that the NAACP's map was illegal. So up until this point, several of you city council members had said you were waiting on a legal opinion before you could make your decision about the map. And then you got a legal opinion, and then you had rebuttal to the legal opinion that as intelligent people, you should be asking yourself, what is going on here, right? Then others said that, well, if the NAACP's map is illegal, then I have no choice but to vote for the city's proposed map. And I would agree, because if it's illegal, you only have one option on the table. But now that you know better, right, then we should do better. And I would say, if you vote against the map that we propose tonight, then you have nothing else to hide behind, because at first you can hide behind the fact that there was no other option because our map was illegal. So if you don't vote for a map that is not that far off from the map that was proposed, a map that was determined to be legal and very near similar to what the city proposed, then I think that means that you don't care. I think that means that you're being self-serving. And at the end of the day, this is just another redundant conversation. And to me, that's very sad. There's a quote that says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Please don't show us who you are. Thank you.
You next.
I'm Linda Lee, and I reside at 1652 St. Andrews Lane in Auburn, 36830. I wasn't going to say anything either, but I feel like that I need to repeat some things. I need to be redundant. But I do think there's a couple of things for me as a citizen, and I'm talking as a citizen, not as a member of an organization, but just as a citizen of Auburn, that I think last time I mentioned that the process is broken, and President Allen mentioned that again. I want to be clear about what I mean by I think the process is broken. I think it's been kind of said that we have something against Mrs. Crouch and her map, and that's not true. Unfortunately, Miss Crouch is involved in a process that is broken. And the manner in which that process is broken is that as a citizen, I feel that I was given a map and then told to give input after a map was already drawn. I wasn't asked to give input prior to a map being drawn. Now, I may be wrong about that, but I think the map was presented as far back as November 10th. And I only remember having a chance to have input after one map was presented. I wasn't asked, as a citizen, what are some things you see about this map? What are some things, how much you redraw it? And I'm not real sure that, I think in some other places in Alabama, citizens are allowed the opportunity to present maps. Organizations present maps, individuals present maps. They present concerns about how particular districts are drawn. And those things are laid out on the table and considered as a part of the process. Somehow, I just don't figure that happened here. It just doesn't seem like it happened. And I'm walking away from it as a citizen feeling cheated. The other thing that I feel like I need to address is statistics. I'm not a statistician, but I listened as Dr. Hood, one of my academic colleagues from the University of Georgia, presented. I do have a doctorate, PhD, from the University of Miami in psychology. I realize that's a soft science, but I did have to do a dissertation. It was on stress. Statistics, I found during the process of doing that dissertation that I like statistics. I was pretty good at it. And some of the statistics that were presented here just weren't valid. But Dr. Hood presented them anyway. His sample was too small. He looked at 2 elections. That we all should know whether you are a statistical genius or not. We should all know that a sample of 2 is not large enough to draw any kind of conclusions. Okay? The other statistics that he presented were regarding our Hispanic and our Asian American populations. He presented that a certain number of them were non-residents. I don't know where he got his statistics, but I can tell you he did not get them from the census. And if he didn't get them from the census, they are not valid in considering drawing a map. So that just disturbed me, and I wanted to state that. Also, his use of the Gingles test was just totally inappropriate. It is not a valid measure to be applied in this venue to our map to determine whether it's valid, legal, or in any manner. Now, it's something that might be used in a court of law.
Please wrap it up, if you would.
Okay. And I think what he was trying to say to you is that if you end up going to court, you might win. So he let you know that. All right?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, I'm going to apologize right ahead. I have a sinus infection, so my voice is a little rough. I wasn't sure myself if I was going to speak tonight. My name is Elizabeth Devore. I reside at 502 Perry Street, so Ward 3. And I first want to begin by saying that I've lived in Auburn now for 12 years. I'm into my 12 years. And all of that is because I came here for my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. I stayed for my master's degree, and I stayed even longer so that I can complete my PhD in electrical engineering. Now, when I was an undergraduate student, I was not as involved as I am now when it comes to community engagement. And that's just a reality of being an undergraduate student who is just trying to get through an engineering degree. But I do know that I see changes, and I've continuously worked on campus for civic engagement with students and the county and the city. The Student Government Association, I know, works with the city and speaks with you. But one of the sad realities is that looking at the Auburn University population, that population is not representative of the state, and it certainly is not representative of the city. And that's sad. I'm constantly striving and trying to push for a more diversity, an inclusive environment on the university's campus. And I would expect the minimum of a city that is much more diverse than the university is. The map that's presented by the NAACP, it's the right choice. And as stated by others tonight, there's hard decisions that you have to make. And more often than not, the right choice and the easy choice are not one and the same. We have a history. All of our systems are built on white supremacy and systems of oppression. You know what's right, and the maps that are presented by NAACP is the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'll be next?
Good evening. I hope y'all can hear me with this on. I don't really feel comfortable taking it off right now. All right. Joshua Lewis, Chairman Joshua Lewis, 1106 States Road, Auburn, Alabama. I am the proud chairman of the Ad Hoc Redistricting Demographic Committee, NAACP. And I am here before you, just like one of our sisters said a while ago, as not just a citizen, but a human who's been classified as a citizen, because I'm speaking human to human right now. But with that being said, I think that the council and all of you who are in front of me right now, y'all have gotten a lot of information geared towards you, and people have been focusing their attention towards you, and rightfully so, because you have big decisions to make and a big vote to take part in today. But at this moment, I'm going to speak to you because that's what the time is allotted for. But I'm going to really take advantage of the public hearing with the next 4 minutes that I have. And I don't really want to speak to you. I'll be looking at you, but I'm speaking to the people who are behind me, because these are the people who, along with you, really do move Auburn. Somebody said a while ago that they believe in Auburn. I can't say I do, but I do believe in the people that make up Auburn. I believe the people is who Auburn is. All right? It ain't just some weird, spooky entity that's out there, but it's been established and is rooted, it's been rooted by people, right? And these people have certain intentions. I can't speak to what their intentions were back then, right? When Auburn was snatched out of Macon County, right? I don't even know if y'all understand how that story went, but Macon County gave birth to Auburn, right? And then not only did they give birth to that, but Auburn started doing what back in the day with a lot of people who were occupying space that wasn't naturally, organically theirs, they started annexing land into it. So this beautiful place we have today is because there were certain people who didn't have a voice, who didn't have a vote, who couldn't say certain things, but over time, because they were the ones who, their backs this whole thing was built on, public, then guess what? They all of it still rises. All of it still is flourishing. Everything is beautiful and looks nice today. But the people who are making this thing work, they're being told, because the map is going to most likely be rejected, that the NAACP, that the people presented and tried to present in a collaborative way, we've been told that, man, you ain't got no voice. You're good enough to work here. You're good enough to be here, but you ain't good enough to really have representation here, right? And so I think that's a foul play. So as I'm talking to you citizens for the next 2 minutes, what I want to tell you is that we do have the power. That if we as organizations, not just organizations, but as people, come together, because see, that's where the fault really lies. Not in the people in front of me, but it lies in our lack of organizing and getting together. Because we do have organizations and we did this thing nice. I love the way we tried to collaborate with the city. But guess what? If there were more people in here and it was standing room only, and it wasn't even enough people to even get into this building, I think that we'll have a lot more progress than we have now. So I think a lot of it is us getting together, and trying to use the time we have. I know as the proletariat, as the working class, it is hard. As minorities, it is hard to use that time because you're working 12 to 12. You got 3-4 kids trying to make this thing work, and everything is telling you that you ain't going to do right. I'm telling you, it's hard, but it's possible. And we have to make it, as people who are in these leadership positions in organizations, we have to make it possible to pull in people, not just other organizations, not coming in here for a show. I'm not saying the signs are for a show. I believe they have good intent. But I'm saying that we need more than just organizations and just others just standing up here. We need everybody who feels that they need to be heard standing in one accord. Because there's no way that any force can stop the whole gamut of the people if we stand together. The power truly does lie in the people. So I would like to see that, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I would like to see as we move forward, those behind me and even in front of me, that we can find some kind of way to push those who are in power to make sure they do exactly what we tell them to do because they work for us. It doesn't matter what the contract says. It doesn't matter what anything says, really. Because at the end of the day, Alabama Constitution states that the people have the right to disperse any kind of oppressive government at any given time. And so we as people have a right and have a duty to come together and make sure that all of these people, they should be trying to figure out how in the world they go even get in the office this coming up year if they don't do what we say do. But because we don't have the numbers we need as a people, then guess what? It may not push that way. People, I'm telling you, this is for you. If we come together, guess what? There's no way we can be stopped. Love you.
Next.
Jason Pratt, 810 Tullahoma Drive. I emailed most of the city council members, but I wanted to say a little bit about it today. Love Auburn, been here 5 years, and I'm a scientist, so numbers mean something, okay? I work for a global company. I do research, I collect data, I present data that's used to make million-dollar decisions. So again, I know a little bit about statistics, I know a little bit about numbers, I know a little bit about data. Last city council meeting, you had an expert get up here and claim that looking back on 2 data points was enough to make a legal decision, which could cost this city millions of dollars. I call BS. Second, there was statistics presented on these screens, specifically the 2020 CVAP census. Okay, do you guys remember that? This is how they justified legal or illegal. That's how they showed you their decision that this map was right. I'm going to read for a second. Following the executive order on ensuring a lawful and accurate enumeration and appointment pursuable to the decennial census, all work on the 2020 census CVAP was stopped and it was never issued. The data that was presented to this council last city council meeting was a lie. It was crap. They made up the data they used to support their map. Okay? You can look it up. I actually read you the executive order. The data was never generated, it was never produced, it was never released. But you saw it last week by your expert. It's crap. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I have nothing against any city council member. I love Auburn. Okay? I have nothing against the city manager. I think she's trying to do an excellent job. The fact that the expert and the person that helped him draw the maps you have currently is openly politically active in suppressing the black vote, minority vote. I mean, it's not even hidden. I think everybody in the room knows. The fact that he has made legal arguments and failed multiple times to suppress the black vote I mean, just look at yesterday. Everybody's already spoken about it. The fact that the city of Auburn chose to use him as an expert, that's powerful. And that says something about everybody in this room, right? You got a choice. Make the right one, guys.
Who'll be next?
That's my place. Good evening. My name is Leah Billy Welburn. I live at 112 North DeBartolome Street, apartment 5. I'm speaking up tonight to echo a request that you've already heard. I request that you propose, second, vote on, and pass a motion accepting the alternative map put forward by the NAACP. Systemic racism means that racism is built into the system. Maintaining the status quo allows the system to continue. Maintaining the status quo allows racism and discrimination to continue. The city staff has made a good, honest attempt to create 2 majority-minority districts. The conversations I've had let me know that. I make no accusations of individuals being racist, but regardless, that's not the point. We're asking for fairness and justice. At the presentation last week, it was posited that the NAACP map would not be effective in operating as a majority-minority district. I've heard about the legal concerns, and those have been addressed. I've heard no case for the city map having an advantage compared to the NAACP map. I have heard concerns about the map operating as it's intended to increase diversity of representation. And if you have a concern that the NAACP map will not do that, then after we pass it, we can have that conversation and see what would be effective. What else can we do? And I know some of you are already engaged in that conversation. I have heard citizens here say that we want the NAACP map, that this would be a step in the right direction. NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The need for advancement exists because people of color are not on an even playing field. The impacts of the past and the baked-in injustices of today mean that the color of their skin puts them at a disadvantage. This injustice, this systemic racism, will persist, especially if we take no action. Please act tonight.
Hello, I'm David Massey. I live in Watercress Court, 334 Watercress Court, Auburn, and I've been living in this community for a little over 20 years now. What I'm just going to say is going to really upset pretty much everybody in this room or close to it. And what I'm stating is not what I was taught in school or in the papers, whatever. It's based on my life experience. My first NAACP was back when I was a little kid before integration. And I was part of a group of kids that were transferred to an all-black school. It was all-black until we went there back in like 70, 71. And we thought we would be accepted with open arms. But it was their school, their turf, and we had to watch our back, and potential being jumped on or girls being sexually molested on a daily basis was just part of going to school as a minority in this majority black school. I worked 3 decades at Uniroyal, and I grew up on a cattle farm, a small cattle farm in Beauregard. And a lot of members of NAACP or whatever, we're quite co-workers, and for the most part, I get along with them, work well with them, and in the crowded break room, share the, a lot of their discussions, from their meetings or upcoming meetings. And a lot of the liberal whites cannot accept the fact that a lot of blacks are racist. In the NAACP organization, if your whole pursuit is to better your own race and your own race only, especially in a city that's multiple culture, with different religions, different ethnicities, and so forth. You look at this room, it's black and white. I live in between a black family, an Asian family, and I'm married to a Hispanic. But another war for the blacks is only going to represent blacks and black only, and discriminate by not representing properly the mass majority of non-blacks minorities in the Auburn city limits. I know y'all guys have created another park, a library, and all this, to please them once again, and you got multiple city holidays and so forth. My kids are half Hispanic, but there is no multiple speakers coming to our school, in Hispanic month, and maybe they shouldn't be. And but that's the way it is, and so what are you doing? You're stating that if the only way blacks can be properly represented is only by another black, and somehow you can trust them to also represent other minorities. I really feel like y'all guys, when you represent your ward, you represent everyone in their ward, not their race, not their religion, but people in your ward. And but say this is in 2022, it's still 1962 in Alabama, it's wrong. This organization is a racist organization. They don't represent the majority of the people. In a colorblind society, we shouldn't have racial organizations representing only one race.
Finish up, sir.
Attacking individuals? And I know.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up, please.
Well, I still got 45 seconds here.
But you've said a mouthful.
Well, what I said is not PC. I understand that. But I have the balls to say it where some of y'all will not, and y'all can continue.
Your time is up. Sit down.
No, it's not.
Your time's up. Sit down. No, your time is up. Sit down. Would you please come here and ask this gentleman to sit down? Time is up, sir. You're done.
I'm done.
You're done speaking.
So you'll send me off to PC jail now?
You're done.
I'm going to be close. You're going to handcuff me to PC jail?
Please, sir.
No arrest now? Outside? I'm not being asked to leave the building?
Just please step outside, sir.
No. I stated my view, and I stated the obvious. But the truth,
Enough.
you can't handle the truth. Y'all
Enough.
cannot handle the truth. Y'all cannot what? Please step outside. What? Step outside. Please step outside. I'm not violent.
Thank you for doing
What is this? Is this America or what? I don't have freedom of speech. I do not have freedom of speech here.
I think this would be a great time to end the public hearing. Sir, you've already spoken once. I think it's an...
The gentleman has attacked our organization. I deserve a rebuttal to that.
Not on topic.
And you allowed it.
Yes, ma'am. You can come speak.
Can I just say something before she speaks? It doesn't deal with that.
We're still in a public hearing, Ms. Taylor.
And I got that. But I think at this point, we need to take a break. If it's just for 3 minutes. Yeah.
You're asking
it's
for a
not
recess.
because I gotta gain my composure here.
Councilperson Taylor, you're requesting a recess, is
Yes.
that correct, Mayor and council?
Yes.
How many minutes would you like? What time would you
3
like to
minutes.
resume?
3
How
minutes.
about 6:50? 6:50.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Can we bring the meeting back to control? We'll get started. It's my intuition that we have had a public hearing. We have heard from almost 20 individuals here this evening. There's been a lot of emotion that has been spoken so far, and we've had a very difficult ending to this public hearing. It is my belief, and is what I would advise the council at this point in time, that the public hearing needs to end, and we need to move forward with our meeting tonight.
I agree with you, Mayor.
I will disagree
Well,
with the mayor. I believe that the NAACP should have at least one representative speak, and then we end.
Because I did interrupt something that, the public hearing, but I knew I had to keep my composure at that time. So I do apologize for because you were getting ready to get up. So I just think that we should at least give her the opportunity, or whoever the opportunity to say something.
How does the rest of the council feel, please?
I can support that, Connie.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we'll allow the public hearing to remain for one additional speaker, please. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. As I said, Bernard Simmons, the president of Alabama NAACP. The NAACP was founded in 1909 by a multicultural group of people. And the NAACP is not a racist organization. We have represented people whose civil rights have been violated, whether they're white, black. Right now, we have a white NAACP president in Covington County, Alabama. And any comments that the gentleman before us made as it relates to NAACP being a racist organization is a flat-out false lie. And we should not allow those type of comments to be made in a public forum like that, because it helps to form opinions. Now, my get off the stage comment is, I think that's why we need people to represent all people in the in your city council, in your state, and in this nation. People who are level-headed, people who believe in equality and justice for all, and not that you believe in it represent only one particular group. The comment about a black person or white person representing only those people, it's been proven over and over again that African Americans in particular, when it comes to elections and when it comes to representation, vote cohesively as a group, and that they need someone that's going to represent them on city council, on county commission, or whether it's a state or federal election. And so, again, we despise the comment of the gentleman, and we hopefully that the city council will pass some kind of resolution to ban that individual from coming to a meeting again. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We'll close the public hearing. Discussion from the council.
I move to amend the proposed map by the city of Auburn to the proposed alternative map proposed by the NAACP.
A second.
I make a motion to amend the alternative map to move census blocks A and B 010810404031005 population 79 and 1081040403111 population 40 from Ward 6 to 5. This change causes the alternative map deviation between the wards to go from 5.8 to 6.0. A group of citizens of Auburn came together that created a map that they believe is more fair and more equitable for everyone in Auburn, and I believe in that as well. I'm not opposed to the map presented by the city. However, the map developed by the city of Auburn changes the dynamics of Ward 5 greatly. Ward 5 has been predominantly made up of single-family units, where, however, with the change by the city of Auburn's redistricting map, that will no longer be the case. Ward 5 will represent the majority of student housing, which I will not be, which I'm not opposed to. However, hearing from a number of my constituents at my Ward 5 meeting a few weeks ago, I think that they would prefer a Ward 5 to stay as similar to the current Ward 5 map as possible, and that is what this alternative map does. And as we've heard from many people tonight, a federal panel of judges ordered state lawmakers to redraw the line, saying black voters have less opportunity than other Alabamians to elect candidates of their choice. We don't want to be on the wrong side of this. I don't want to be on the wrong side of this. For what it's worth, this change will also put Councilman Parsons' home in Ward 5, which will then open up the Ward 6 seat for a potential minority rep come the summer. As mentioned earlier, I will not be running for the Ward 5 seat this summer, so Councilman Parsons can keep his current constituents, and I think this is a great compromise and solution. By supporting this, we can avoid a potential lawsuit, and our tax dollars can be put to use in our community rather than paying for legal fees. And if anyone would like to have a copy of the map that I'm proposing, I have copies.
Mayor Anders, you need a second to the amendment to the amendment.
A second.
Okay.
Then, before you can have any discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is obviously new information for the council. Any questions or comments from anybody on the council?
Has this been vetted? I mean,
I haven't.
is this the same map that's been?
I have no idea.
This is
it's
the
not
exact same map,
something-
except a slight change with 2 blocks.
Can you point out where those blocks are?
And when you say
They-
same map, are you talking about the same map proposed by the Auburn or the NAACP?
NAACP map. I mentioned it a minute ago, what the census blocks are.
Has this been vetted through legal as to the ratio of population spread or any of that?
No, not to my knowledge, unless somebody was contacting Mr. Davidson directly. No, I've not seen this. I do not have before me any information on blocks.
So
or
our
the data.
staff nor our legal team has looked at this.
No, but let's be clear. We're talking only about the amendment to the amendment, not, and that is, I don't want to get into primary and secondary amendments. This is an order, but the amendment to the amendment, which is involving specific block groups that were mentioned, we have not had the opportunity to review. The initially proposed amendment that's not on the floor right now, we have reviewed, so I don't want any,
You're right.
lack of clarity on that. We have reviewed that, but the amendment to the amendment has not been something staff has looked at, to my knowledge. I don't know what those block groups are.
With this whole thing being like a pie, and you move one street, it moves. You got to change lines. What kind of analysis needs to be done prior to us making a determination on the amendment to the amendment?
I'll have Mr. Graff speak to that. He is our GIS expert in this, and he's our Deputy Chief Information Technology Officer, but I'll have him speak to that.
So what we're typically looking for, we're looking on both sides of that line, right, of what population is shifting and then the makeup of that population. And the makeup of that population both in complete individuals, everybody, and then we also look at that at voting age population as well, so we can understand if there's a different dynamic at play. Make sure we've looked at both sides of that coin.
And at this point, we haven't.
No, this has
That's
not been
correct, we have
reviewed.
not.
Okay, thank you.
Was it mentioned in the amendment to the amendment what the standard deviation would change to? Did you state that, Stephen?
Yeah, 5.8% to 6%.
6% standard deviation for Ward 5 or
Yes.
Ward 6?
I believe it's 5. Or 6. I'm sorry, 6. I'm sorry. The whole city? The whole city.
Okay, are we not bound to a standard deviation of less than 5%?
We'll have Mr. Graff explain, and Dorman Walker should really explain the deviation. You're looking at a total deviation of not more than 10, but we'll have him explain from a legal perspective.
The deviation that you've adopted is either a range that is 5% above ideal population to 5% below ideal population for a total deviation of 10%.
Is that citywide or is that per ward or district?
That's done on a ward or district basis. So you would expect that each ward has a deviation somewhere between 1 and 10%.
So again, I'm going to ask, this 6% deviation is for what?
It's for the entire city.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Oh, no, sir, that's out of order. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Well, I did have some questions, but I think most of my questions during the public hearing was answered. I really wanted someone to clarify if the map with the NAACP proposed, was it legal or was it not legal? And
Right now, we're talking about the amendment to the amendment.
Right, and then we can get to that with the amendment unless you feel, and it's not trying to get.
Oh, we only
You're
on
just
that amendment.
you're just about this piece. You can definitely get there when you've got to take it in order, amendment to the
Yes.
amendment, and then next level, absolutely, Connie.
got
So
you.
if that's somehow though germane to your decision about this, but I know you seconded the motion, so that's, from there, it's up to you guys.
Just for clarity, the amendment to the amendment that we're talking about now is the reconfiguration of the lines separating Ward 5 and Ward 6. Is that correct? That's the amendment to the amendment that we are discussing.
To the NAACP.
To the
To the
NAACP
P map.
map. Yes.
Which is this?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the amended version of the NAACP map. And that's what we're speaking of now.
Yes, the amended version. You're exactly right, Bob.
So it's the alternative map, if I'm understanding correctly, Mr. Dixon, with an amendment.
Yes. So these lines would not even match up with the city's produced map.
No.
Correct.
Or if we adopt, let me follow that with this. If we were to adopt, in the instance we adopt the amended the secondary amendment, and then adopt the city's produced map, the lines wouldn't match up at all.
Actually, the secondary amendment is following the original amendment. So the primary amendment and the secondary amendment are related to one another at the moment. So, and you've got to go in the order, it's
Well,
like a ladder.
in
Yep.
that case, I would like to offer some comments about the amended amendment in order to speak to a couple of comments made by the public concerning me and my motivations as a council member. The idea that I'm coveting my position in the face of democracy, that I'm sitting back trying to be comfortable for the next 4 years in an election is particularly galling to me, because I believe that I have honored the idea of democracy in every situation that I've been involved as a public representative, and the idea that I'm going to look at what's best for me is grates me terribly. I would encourage every member of our community, if they feel so led, to get in the municipal race for this city, state your case, argue your positions, appeal to the public that you are the better candidate, and run, and I wish you well. And the public will choose their chosen representative, and democracy is assured. Whether my case is stronger or not is up to you, but I'm certainly not going to dissuade anybody from getting involved in the honorable duty of public representation. I encourage every one of you, if you are so led, to throw your hat in the ring and race. And I'll see you there, and I'll race my race as well.
Anyone else?
Would you clarify what we're voting on and in what order, please?
We're voting on the amendment to the amendment. So we're voting on
Redrawing of the line.
the redrawing of these lines for the alternative map.
Not the city map, the alternative map.
Okay. So the amendment only goes with alternative map.
Then ultimately, the alternative map would have to be adopted for this for the secondary amendment to be accepted.
So you would vote on a secondary amendment first, because you've got to take this there. Then next you would vote on the request, which was actually a total substitution request, it's a substitution amendment, to completely substitute one map for the other, but it would be substituting that map as amended.
Yep.
In essence. And I know it can be confusing. That is the order in which you've got to deal with it. What you're looking at before you is a map that has just some proposed block numbers and saying where to move, and it's got a population number of 79 next to one of it and a population of 40 next to the other, meaning it's the only other thing that people aren't seeing. Nobody else can see the map, but it's just outlining some basic data.
Has that got your question answered, Kelly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. Any other questions or comments from any other council members? Okay. Megan, we'll take this by roll call.
Yes.
Okay. Lindsay?
Dawson,
No, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
No, ma'am.
Hovey,
No, ma'am.
Parsons,
No.
Smith,
No, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
No.
Anders.
No. All right. We also have a motion here to adopt the alternative map. Does that
Yes, that's
summarize
correct.
that, Mr.
Yep.
Dixon?
Yep.
So we
It's
have a
really
mo-
to amend.
Which is
Basically,
amended,
yeah.
yes.
It's a substitution.
For a substitute
wholesale
map.
substitution, yes.
Exactly right. All right, so we've got a motion and a second on that. Is there any comments or questions? And I'll turn to you, Ms. Taylor, because I think you wanted to make some comments on this.
Okay.
I had
so,
some questions.
About the amendment or open questions, what I'm gonna do?
This would be related to the amendment for the substitute map, which is the alternative map.
The map that,
This is the original map.
the
Original map by the NAACP.
Okay. So that's what on the table right
That's what's
now.
on the table right now.
now.
Well, I have no problem with the alternative map that the NAA has proposed. NAACP has proposed. So, but I guess that would come back to my question that someone to clarify if this proposed NAACP map. Now, I've heard from I've heard from one side tonight as to whether the map is legal or not. So from the other side, just for clarity, the proposed map for the NAACP, is it legal or is it not?
Ms. Crouch, is that a question we can answer here tonight?
Davidson.
We're talking about the proposed map.
You're asking about the alternative map as proposed by the
Right.
NAACP and is currently on the table. Rick, microphone. I'm sorry. It's people, we're broadcasting, so.
I'll address the first part and ask Mr. Walker to address the second. And that is first, this is a legal opinion not from one side or another. I'm not offering, or I would not ask Mr. Walker to offer a legal opinion that takes a side or another. With that being said, I think he can best address the concerns, if any, as to whether or not that map is defensible and what would be the issues with that map.
It may be a lawyer thing. I don't think I would call the map illegal. I would say it doesn't comply with the law, which may be semantics to everybody else. But
Please, audience, please be respectful.
I would say that I was asked to advise on the plan, And I have told the council there are 3 problems with the plan. The first is that the functional population of the proposed Ward 6 is not sufficient to create a minority district. In fact, if you look at the citizen voting age population, Dr. Hood's testimony was that it was about 78% white, because there is a significant population in that ward that are not citizens and therefore do not vote. There were some comments earlier by a gentleman who read something about collecting citizen voting age population. I'm not sure quite what he was reading, but what I can tell you is that the Trump administration at one point sought to add a question to the census about whether or not the respondent was a citizen. My recollection is that a court disallowed that question and that it was not therefore included in the census. So census data for 2020 did not report, and so far as I know, has never reported whether or not someone is a census. From the very first census, the census has counted people who are present, whether they are citizens or not. The Census Bureau has a separate product called the American Community Survey. It's based on a longer census form that asks a lot of questions from the respondent. And the CVAP data comes from that. It's a different source of information, but it's the information that we have about census, about who is a citizen and who is not. And it's commonly treated in courts of law as reliable. I've never heard that it is not. And Dr. Hood's testimony simply was that when you look at whether or not the proposed Ward 6 will actually function as a majority district, it will not. In fact, it's a majority white district if you look at citizen voting age population, and that's what makes that district function. The other problem is that the proposed Ward 6 is an aggregation of different minorities. I think it's admitted that there are not enough black citizens in that district to make a majority black district. So what the NAACP has attempted to do is aggregate a series of minorities, including Asians, American Indians, and Hispanic, as well as black, and say that this aggregation, this total aggregation, exceeds the number that's necessary to have a majority in the district. That can be done. Communities, different minorities may be combined to form a majority in a majority district, but only where there's a showing that they act cohesively in a political manner, that they support the same candidates, that they support the same issues. And there's no showing here. In fact, given that a large percentage of the Asian population, at least, in this proposed Ward 6 is non-citizen, there's every reason to believe that they don't engage in political activities with the black community. So that appears to be a second failing, or at least it's one for which no evidence, which was repeatedly asked for, was produced. And I would also add that a problem with the proposed plan is that it takes black population from your district and assigns it to Ward 6, and the end result, I don't know, could be that there are fewer, there are no African Americans or no blacks on the city council as opposed to just one.
Okay. Actually, I still didn't get the answer that I was looking for, because you said a lot, and I hear what you're saying, and it takes me back to, I guess, some facts or data that was presented both in the special session and in the open public session, that Ward 1 is not actually a majority district. It just acts as a majority district. Did I word that right? Because I thought that is what was said.
That is what was
Okay.
said.
Now, with that being said, when you draw up Ward 6, can it do the same thing with the data that's presented for it to be a majority ward? So if you can make up one ward, then look like to me you can make up 2 wards to do the same, to function the same way. I'm not an expert, but that's what I hear.
Do you want me to respond?
You can.
Okay. What I said about Ward 1 is what I was showed by the city is that the population of that district is not majority black. I think it's close to, but it's not majority black. But what happens in that district is that a large population of the citizens in that district are students who don't vote. And because they don't vote, that means that the people who do vote, which is the black population of that district, can effectively elect their leader of choice. So it functions as a majority black district. Mm-hmm. That's not the situation in the proposed Ward 6. The situation in the proposed Ward 6 is that when you look at the people who can actually vote, a majority of them, a significant majority of them, are white, according to the CVAP data. So what to parse it down, to condense what I said to you, unfortunately, I'm forced to the conclusion that the NAACP plan does not comply with the law.
Okay. So so my question once again is, okay, let's take Ward 6 out the equation. Is there another ward from the 8 wards that we represent that can act as a minority district? So we ain't worrying about Ward 6 at this point, okay? So when we talking about that, and just let me finish, because I want you to understand what I'm asking here. It was said that the minorities are spread all over the city. Mm-hmm. They spread it. And that spread includes Ward 1, okay? So with them being spread all over the city, then, and I don't know, I know these lines don't show it, sort of compacting another district the way you did, sort of did Ward 1. But can another ward act as if the same way that Ward 1 acted besides Ward 6? Do we have that?
The single-member district system works well for minorities when you have a compact group of minorities so that a district can be drawn around them and they can form a majority in that district. That's an older housing pattern that is disappearing in cities in the South. In many ways, it's a good thing because our neighborhoods are becoming more integrated and blacks and whites are being distributed throughout a city. However, that works against the creation of a majority district when the city becomes more homogenized in its population. Whether or not there are other places in the city where there are pockets of black population that could be combined with student population to create another district that functions like a majority black district is information I simply don't have.
Okay. Now, and I'm gonna make this my last statement on this. So that leads me to believe that once upon a time, this good old city of Auburn had that compactness throughout the city. I can go back to neighborhoods that was just as compact with minorities as Ward 1 is today. And anybody who has lived here as long as I have, or more, and I've been here 61 years, have seen that somewhere somebody should have drawn lines that minority, second minority district, should have been an issue. Not now, because the minority now makes up other groups of minority. But since I was in this city basically was black-white. The white was maybe the increased number, but I think that this could have been done. So now they spread it all out. And they always have been spread it out. But there has been enough in the past, to make 2 minority or more wards. That's my opinion, and I am subject to an opinion.
Any other
It may not mean nothing, but
I'm sorry, Connie, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Any other comments or questions from the council?
I have a question for Mr. Walker, if it's allowable. If we're looking at the map by the NAACP, and we're looking at Ward 6, and I know that they're saying that it is a minority-majority group, and you're saying it's not. If it's not, and it's majority white or whatever, is that map still legal? Do you hear what I'm saying?
If it was drawn in a race-conscious manner,
If it's not. If it's not drawn in a race-conscious manner, it's a simple yes or no.
No, it's not. He can explain it. Please go ahead, Mr. Walker.
The Equal Protection Clause and the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act put limitations on how people can be grouped on the basis of race. And you can't simply group people on the basis of race on the assumption that because they are a particular race, they think in a particular way. You have to identify communities of interest that where it's understood that everyone or most of the people share concerns about health or transportation or employment or education and the whole host of things that make up our lives. That's a community of interest. And one of the things that you try to do when you draw districts is protect communities of interest. Ward 6 does not aggregate it aggregates communities of interest without any indication that the separate communities of interest that are Asian, Hispanic, Black, I think there was a little bit of American Indian in there, have anything to do with each other. So if that was done on a race-conscious basis, then that probably violates the Equal Protection Clause. If they just happen to be drawn into the same district in a race-blind manner, then that would not violate the Equal Protection Clause because there was no consideration of race.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have a motion on the table, an amendment for a substitute map, which has been commonly called the alternative map this evening, okay? All right, so that's with the motion on the table. Lindsay with the roll call.
Dawson,
No, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
No, ma'am.
Hovey,
No, ma'am.
Parsons,
No.
Smith,
No, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
No.
Anders.
No. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions as we move forward?
I move to amend the proposed redistricting map to move census blocks on the east side of North Gay Street, south side of East Glen Avenue, west side of North Debardeleben, and north side of East Magnolia from Ward 5 to Ward 4, and to move census blocks on the south side of East Glen Avenue, west side of East University Drive, north side of Old Mill Road, and east side of North Dean Road from Ward 4 to Ward 5, as shown on this attached map.
Is that the map in front of us, Bob?
That's
Yes,
the
sir.
two pieces right here in front of us.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
All right.
it's right here. Oh.
All right, we have a motion, a second. It's also on the screen in front of us. Any comments or questions from the council?
I make this motion at the request of some concerned citizens, several of whom brought this, identified a problem with regard to the percentage of students in the proposed Ward 5 being 65%, and they felt that Ward 5, as it's proposed, bore the burden of excessive student population, and they felt that only equitable to share some of the load of the student voting population back into Ward 4, where it belonged for the last 10 years.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the?
I would like to also add that the constituents in this case identified the problem, they identified a solution. It was brought before the city manager, who viewed it and found, if I may say as much, that there was that it met the requirements as laid out by law, and this has been generated by a group of constituents in Ward 5.
Ms. Crouch, could you speak to the involvement of the staff related to this particular?
I'll clarify real quick in terms of Councilperson Parsons and contacted me about this, and I was in the initial meeting. I was not available when the staff met back with them yesterday, but that is correct. Some citizens came to us, had done a tremendous amount, like other groups had done, of work with block groups. We'd first heard from one citizen, I believe it was in November, it may have been very early December, about this. And then also recently asked for a meeting. I had Mr. Graff with me in the meeting with these citizens, and they proposed and asked us to look, and they gave us data, and we reviewed that data. And Mr. Graff will speak to, when we were reviewing data, this is not something that's been reviewed by Mr. Walker nor Mr. Davidson. What we were looking at from a raw standpoint is any deviations. Mr. Graff can speak to roughly how much population that shifts from one ward to the other, and if it ran afoul of any of our major criteria.
And I guess to be clear up front, we don't have student population data, so we weren't analyzing this for that root desire of how to balance the student population. But as you're looking at it, the suggestion of what to move from Ward 5 into Ward 4 is roughly 978 people. And then the other piece, the moving from Ward 4 into Ward 5, that's 1,016 people. Making that swap does not make a significant difference to that deviation. It's within, if I'm remembering correctly, it's Ward 4 is going from negative 0.59 deviation to a positive 0.74. Ward 5 would be transitioning from negative 0.56 to negative 0.16. So very much well within the standard of deviation that we're seeking. And then when you go and look at the demographic breakdown of who those 1,000 people are as they're transitioning. I guess the one notable thing is we are moving a couple percentage points of Asian population from, I think it was Ward 5 into Ward 4. Again, it's not something that's going to swing a already established balance in what was already in the proposed plan.
Are we allowed to, on the basis of student housing, is the reason we're moving? I mean, is that within the bounds of what we're allowed to do legally? If and not that I'm not in support of this, I'm just asking. The basis Mr. Parsons said was some folks had reached out concerned about student housing specifically, and is that
Well, and as
legally? I mean, we're okay to.
As Mr. Graff mentioned, I mean, we didn't look at student population in terms of, and you've heard Mr. Walker talk about you're going in with a standard and you're looking, across the board at a number of things and doing that. But I'll have our legal team speak to, from my lens and what I understand from our legal team, students are not a consideration. Your ability to adjust maps that meet criteria would be something that the legal team could speak to, but I don't believe students are a criteria for consideration directly as something that the courts have viewed. Rickard?
I don't see any problem with it.
Any other comments or questions from anybody on the dais about this? Any thoughts?
I have some thoughts. I'm not really. This was something I learned of today as the Ward 5 representative, and it was brand new to me. I know that, when I first saw the map, I thought there's a lot more college students in this in Ward 5. Looking at this today, I did not see the map until I walked up here. Looking at it, I don't really think it makes any change. Some of these areas that would move back into Ward 5 are mostly college students. They're duplexes where most college students live. There's maybe a couple of streets over where it's family neighborhood, but for the most part, it doesn't really change what's being asked. So I will not be supportive of this.
And I also have a comment. Now, I know we off the subject about the proposed NAACP map, so we're now talking about the proposed city map, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
So, are we under the understanding that if we pass this map, Auburn proposed map, that's proposed by the city staff, that there is likely a lawsuit from the Legal Defense Fund? I mean, so I guess my question is, I guess we're going to take that risk, is basically what I'm asking.
Well, right now, we're talking about an amendment to the city's.
I am too. I'm talking about even if we accept a proposed amendment or whatever, we're not even talking about two minority districts anymore. So I'm asking about the amendment because the amendment still has to do with the map for that we're not even talking about two minority districts. You understand what I'm saying?
Not really.
We are talking about the Auburn proposed map, okay? Amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So, legally, I'm talking legal now. I guess this map is legal, according to some experts. So, we're just gonna forget the fact that even with the amended Auburn proposed map, not referring to not even thinking about two minority districts, that we're likely to be sued.
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. Right now, the conversation is about an amendment to the City of Auburn's map.
Okay, well, just keep it in mind. That's all.
Well,
If you're not understanding what I'm saying, I just want you to keep that thought in mind. Even if we are talking about amended map.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to comment to that because I think it's a dangerous precedent to make decisions out of fear of litigation. We sit up here and make decisions every council meeting that is subject to litigation on either side of a vote. So I think what is our responsibility is to take the facts in front of us, make an informed decision, a yes or a no, and if someone determines that they need to litigate a vote, then we have a team of attorneys who handle that for us.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other comments or questions related to this amendment to the map, the original map that we're voting on tonight? Does everybody understand? Okay. A yes is you approve these amendments, and a no is that you don't. Okay. All right, Lindsay, roll call.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
No.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
No.
Witten,
I'm going to abstain because I don't know enough about what's in front of us on this.
Anders.
Yes.
Motion carries
6-2.
6-2.
Okay. All right. Any other further discussion or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment to offer as well.
Sure. Yes, sir.
I move to amend the proposed redistricting map to move small census blocks located on the south side of Bragg Avenue, east and north sides of Warrior Court, west side of North College Street, and south side of Mitcham Avenue from Ward 5 to Ward 2, as shown on the attached map.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Has this been through?
I don't have it on my.
Yeah, this was submitted on November 17th. We've had a look at it, and at your discretion, I can have Mr. Graff go over the demographic change.
Please,
thereof.
if you would, yes.
So when we look at this, we're not dealing with a large population here. There's a population of 27 residents on the west side of College. The east side of College is a business, so we don't have any residents there. So again, we're moving 27 residents into Ward 2 from Ward 5. So with that number, it's 18 whites, 7 blacks, and 2 Hispanics. With those numbers, that doesn't make any substantial change in the demographics for either of Ward 5 or Ward 2.
Mr. Griswold, would you kind of speak to your interest in pursuing this?
Absolutely. This change brings the entire historic district into the same ward. That's the interest here. The historic district was determined a long time ago, not by this council, but by other city officials, elected and staff, as a region that has a significant architectural and historic perspective. Now, granted, not all the buildings in here are contributing assets, but at some point, the city of Auburn determined that these boundaries and grouped these blocks into a coherent community. So to keep that coherent community intact, I would propose that this be lumped in with the other portion of the Auburn North College District, North College Historic District.
Okay.
And this was brought up way back in November, long before any of the other changes were even thought about.
It was actually brought up on November 10th in your redistricting work session.
Basically got the depot, you've got a fraternity house, you've got a former restaurant,
Right.
you've got a house that functions as an office building right there,
Right.
and then you have some apartment complexes behind.
And the house that functions as an office complex now underwent significant, perhaps up to $1 million worth of renovation in order to be compliant with the historic district standards. So that is certainly a contributing structure.
All right, any comments or questions from the council? Any thoughts? Okay, Lindsay with a roll call.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
No.
Witten,
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any further comments or questions?
I've got.
Oh, just-
You can go ahead.
Yeah, go
You-
ahead.
No,
I was just going to ask city manager, when considering the proposed map by the city, were there any minorities that were a part of the decision making, as far as staff or anything like that?
Decision-making, decisions were made based on data. The staff members involved, it's one thing, different people identify in different ways. I'm happy to divulge the names of the staff members involved, as we did to you, very much. And most of them are in the room, if not all of them. I think everybody's here at the November 10th meeting. But we had our main two staff members involved up front were Mr. Graff and Mr. Kipp. Logan Kipp is one of our principal planners. Our planning director, Steve Foote, was available and in those conversations. One of our other principal planners, Katie Robinson, who had also served as an acting planning director and in previous redistricting efforts, was involved. Later on and behind the scenes, some of Mr. Graff's GIS staff was responding to redistricting comments and so on, and other members of the planning staff. Did I miss anyone that was involved?
Your staff, public affairs.
Yeah, public affairs. Mr. Dorton was involved, but not in the drawing of the initial maps. Neither was I involved in the drawing of the maps. My staff, we had a organizing meeting, as I told you, when we knew that we were going to be getting data. And my only instructions were to take the data, as I'm required to do by state law. I'm required. This is a council manager form of government, very different than a mayor council form of government. I'm not a political appointee. I am a professional hired city manager who has to follow guidelines, who proposes something because state law asks that I propose it. A political lens in a mayor council form of government, when a map is proposed, may be a different exercise and undertaking because it involves politics into the process. So the professional staff that worked on this are the people that you see in the room. How they identify racially is up to them and not a question I'm going to ask them to respond to.
any other comments or questions from the council?
I have a few comments.
Yes.
First, I want to acknowledge the NAACP's efforts and all that has gone into identifying an alternative map, and I want to applaud the group for those efforts. I think it was a very important process for us to be a part of and to be involved in. I do think much has been said about our process and how it has been perceived as being unfair, inappropriate, not transparent. And I want to point out a couple points that I think counter those arguments. One, we've been compared to other municipalities, Mobile, Huntsville. As Ms. Crouch identified, we are a council manager form of government, which means that the professional staff is the one who makes recommendations, and then this body takes those recommendations, identifies the decision-making factors, and then makes a decision based on that. In a mayor-council form of government, which Mobile and Huntsville happen to operate under, operate in a very different political spectrum and arena than we do. Much has been said about the state's redistricting process and how a decision was brought forth yesterday by the courts. That was a very political process driven by party ideologies and theologies. This body is a nonpartisan body, and I don't believe that we sit up here and we bring in political ideologies or theories into our decision-making. I personally do not. It's one of the reasons why I love the city of Auburn, and the fact that I sit on this body is because it is nonpartisan. We have had the staff drew the map, made a proposal. November 10th, we received that map the same time that the entire public received that map. We've had 2 open houses. Aside from Councilperson Griswold's changes early on in the process, up until today, no other council member made proposed changes when we've had ample opportunity to do so. 2 open houses. We've had this on our agenda on December 21. We postponed it out of consideration for other opportunities and discussions. We postponed it on January 4th for the same purpose and to gain additional information because we were given additional information from an outside organization. On January 18th, we postponed it, thankfully, out of respect for 2 council members, the mayor and myself not being on this dais, and I appreciate that. It is no fun being home with COVID, flu A and flu B, I can assure you. So I'm grateful to be sitting here today to be a part of this conversation. And then again tonight, as well as multiple meetings that I've been a part of. I know there have been 2 ward meetings. I sat through a private Zoom meeting with the NAACP redistricting committee member, Mr. Bill Lee, on Friday, January 14th. And I've had many conversations. I even sat in on the League of Women Voters Zoom meeting last night when they heard from the president of Billy Allen, and he outlined the goals of the NAACP. Through this process, and out of respect for the process, I made a personal choice to join the NAACP because I want to be a part of the conversation moving forward. And I think that this map is a starting point, but it is not what defines us as a community. I believe in the work ethic and the non-biased, nonpartisan process that our staff put forth and put forward. And it was stated early on by multiple groups, including the NAACP representatives, that the city map was a good map and a good starting point. So I think what we have before us is a solid map. And I too echo the fact that I welcome anybody and everybody throughout this entire city. If you feel led to serve your community, whether on a board or commission or on this body as a council representative, by all means jump in. Let me have a conversation with you offline as to what that involvement requires and it involves and what all goes into being this, because the public seeing us two meetings a month is scratching the surface about what this body puts forth in this community. I think we all come with good hearts. I think we all come with a servant-led approach to the decision-making that we make. And I'm proud of this body, and I'm proud of the differences on this body. I know we all don't agree on a lot of things, and that, I think, is the beauty of it. I cannot sit up here and pretend that I understand what it means to be a minority. I'm not going to pretend to be one. But I respect and I appreciate and I adore the fabric that every person and human brings to this city. I do not appreciate Mr. Massey's comments. He lives in my ward. I know his family. I know his family to this point to be a good family. I do not support his comments this evening. I think they're out of line, and I think they should not be taken as any representation of what this body has gone through this process. But I do think through multiple channels, I'm going to skirt back to Mobile real quick. I looked online. They are following the exact same process that we outlined. They are putting forth a map. They're having multiple town halls. They're receiving citizen input, and then they're going to vote on a map. They have not voted yet on a map. So they're going through the same process, and we've been compared to Mobile and that we should be like Mobile. I disagree. I don't think we should be like Mobile. I think Auburn is better. I like Mobile. Huntsville, they had multiple maps presented, and if it's in my understanding, they voted on the map that the city council and the city presented themselves. So I'm sure it could be argued that they just ignored what the public said to them. I like Huntsville, have nothing against Huntsville. Again, they represent a different process and a different political structure than we do. So I say all that to state that I think the map in front of us, I applaud the process and the communications and the the length and the time, I don't believe it was redundant. I don't believe any of us sat up here and thought, oh no, we've got to hear again from the citizens. I think we have all taken this to heart. We have had sleepless nights, at least I have, with regard to these maps. And I do not make this vote lightly tonight, but I do leave this dais tonight knowing that if we vote in the city map, that we have a good fabric for the next 10 years.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council like to make a comment before we move forward on a vote? Anyone? Okay. I have a statement I want to make before we finish. Before I begin, I just want to thank everyone's part of this process. There have been people that have entered this facility here that have maybe never come to a council meeting. I know there's people that are sitting here tonight that I've never met before this moment. The time that you took and invested to become a part of this is important, and I appreciate it and I respect that. I'd like to thank everyone who had the courage to come to this podium at all of our public meetings and share your point of view. I also want to thank our staff and Megan for their work and their willingness to listen to the public, to analyze all of the alternate proposed map, and to pass all this information along to us. That is their job. I know the city manager and her staff well enough to tell you this: their only goal every day they go to work is to do what's best on behalf of our city. With that said, I think it's really important that we reflect again, and Ms. Whitten said some of this, about what got us here tonight. This council first heard from the city manager in late July with a proposed timeline and a process for redistricting. It reflected the same process that's been used in this city for multiple generations. We learned that the data was expected from the Census Bureau by August the 12th, and because that data provided by the Census Bureau required some processing to become useful, we had that data in September. And 60 days later, our staff had put together a proposed map for us to consider. This map was presented to the council and to the public on November the 10th, almost 3 months ago. Since then, we've invited citizens to 2 different open houses in 2 different areas of town. At both of those meetings, we had staff there who could answer any question on the maps, the data, the legal requirements, or our process. We invited citizens, including by advertising in 2 local newspapers and social media, to a public hearing in December on redistricting, and held another public hearing just last week. Whether through public hearings, citizens' communications, or citizens' open forum, we've listened closely to many hours of public input over the 5 regular council meetings and 2 open houses we've had in those 77 days. We've invited and received phone calls, emails, and letters, and our city manager and staff have met separately not only with the NAACP, but with other residents who have asked for time to have their questions addressed. We've postponed a vote on this 3 different times, and I'd like to say thank you for the one on the 18th. I could not be here, so we could keep listening primarily to what our residents had to say. And for all of those days, we had our website with both current and proposed maps by district, with census information, and with a survey inviting public comment. The comments and questions provided by the public as part of this process have all been provided to this council to make our decision tonight. Anyone could have submitted a map during these 77 days, and we carefully analyzed the one alternate map that was submitted. During this process, we've heard from our own city attorney, as well from external consultants that he engaged to assist in analyzing the plan. The legal team did not draw one line on the map before us tonight. Their only function was to evaluate the plan that our staff created to confirm that it is compliant with federal law, including the Voting Rights Act, as well as state law. Their charge was to look at it critically, to find anything and everything wrong with it, to make sure that we had a plan that complied with the fact and the spirit of all the laws. Last week, I was unable to attend and participate in this discussion on redistricting, but I certainly watched and listened carefully, and before I finish, I'd like to take an opportunity to talk about some of what I heard. First, I heard that our city manager spent hundreds of hours and her staff spent hundreds of hours evaluating the alternative map. This tells me that our staff, our mapping and districting experts, took the alternate map and public input seriously and gave it the time and the consideration and the respect that it deserved. Also heard that our staff not only evaluated whether the proposed map met legal requirements and accomplished its goals, but whether they themselves could make those adjustments on our map or create an alternate map that did both of those things. And perhaps most importantly, I heard that they couldn't make it work. The analysis showed that there's no evidence to support the functionality or cohesion of a second majority minority district, but that it could damage the functioning black majority minority district that we have by diluting the black vote in Ward 1. So please hear me on this. If this council votes to pass the city's redistricting plan as it stands today, it's not because we refuse the alternate plan creating a second district, but rather because our legal and data analysis show that the alternate map does not accomplish this goal and could damage or dilute the voting integrity of our community in Ward 1. This has been a challenging night with a challenging episode that I've never seen before in this council. And there'll be plenty of lessons to learn from. Auburn's a very unique town. Over the last 10 years, we've grown by over 40%, which has created the situation that we're here tonight. We had to figure out a way to equally disperse all of those extra people that have come to this town, that came here to seek a better life for themselves and their families, to retire, to work at a good job, to put their kids in our school system. I will never tell you that Auburn is a perfect community. We're not. We will always have things to work on. But we've got a lot to be proud of. And it's my hope and prayer that what's happened here over the last month and a half could be turned into a positive, and we can come together and we can lock arms and we can continue to make Auburn an even better place for all of its citizens for the future. All right, Lindsay, roll call.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
No.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
No.
Witten,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do we have a move to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.